With a win in any of the next 3 games in Boston, the Mariners secure a winning road trip. We'll get you set for the series and more coming up here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025. This is Teddy Gonzalez and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. And as always, if you want to hear from me and Colby even more and help support the show, you can check out our Patreon. All you have to do to check that out is click the link in the description of this episode. Mariners kick off a 3-game set with the Red Sox today at Fenway Park. But before we talk about that, let's close the book on the Mariners series win in Toronto. Colby, and by the way, folks, Colby is in the middle of a blackout right now and using a hotspot on his phone. So if he's a little laggy today, that's why. But Colby, what were your takeaways from that series in Toronto?
Yeah, the offense is carrying the boys to victories because the starting pitching sure isn't, which is not a sentence I would think would have been said a couple weeks ago. It's true. Like right now, the biggest obstacle for the Seattle Mariners to overcome is their starting pitching, which is just nuts that we've even reached a point here. But that's where we are. And I think, there are a couple ways to look at it. You could either look at it as, wow, that's, really lucky that the Mariners offense happens to be good at a time when their pitching is terrible. And that's going to, come crashing down here sooner rather than later. Or you could look at it and say like, well, look, we know the pitching is better than it's been so far. Like we just know there's too much talent. And the offense doesn't need to be this good. Which I believe right now I don't know where it stands after yesterday's games, but I believe they entered yesterday 4th in WRC plus. And keep in mind, a vast majority of their games still have been played at T-Mobile Park, which suppresses offense more than any other ballpark in baseball. So, yeah, I think you can look at it either way. I personally, I would say that we know that the starting pitching is way more talented than the production they're actually putting out there right now. And it's not like you're asking these guys to do anything they haven't done before. So I think the big takeaway is that, hey, the offense right now is carrying a little bit, and thank goodness it's good early in the year and your pitching is not, which is kind of the inverse of what we thought. But all that considered, you're being 12-10 and you're right there in the thick of things in a mediocre American League, to be nice. I think is really a positive thing. And yeah, the pitching will eventually get back to its, top 5 self sooner rather than later. And you just have to hope that the offense is probably not going to be this good, but can they be average to above average for most of the rest of the season? And if that's the case, then I think I'd feel pretty good about the Mariners' chances in the next 140 games.
I look at it as a positive, especially there were a couple times last year where it just felt like everything was going wrong. And, so far this year, it's like, okay, the rotation is nowhere near what it needs to be for you. And, if you told anyone that heading into the season, you go, oh my God, they've only won like 4 games, 5 games. Like how bad did it get? No, they're 12-10 because the offense is actually picking up the slack. The bullpen is picking up the slack. Like the 2 biggest question marks heading into the season have actually been your strengths so far, when your supposed strength is laboring a little bit right now. That's going to happen over the course of a season. So there's plenty of time for this rotation to get it together. I think they will. I think this is ultimately going to still be the driving force of this team. I'm not being fooled by anything that I've seen in these first 22 games. And that's just how baseball goes, right? That's how the season goes. There's just so much time in a regular season that things are just, things are going to be one way, and then another in a couple of weeks, and then it just goes back and forth and back and forth, and you just kind of hope that in the times where things kind of dip for you in one aspect of your team, that another aspect of your team is able to carry that, and that's what's happening right now, and that's a good thing, and that's what you need, if you're going to be able to make the playoffs and try and make a run. So yeah, so overall I look at this as a positive. I don't think that this is something that's going to carry throughout the entire season on both fronts. I don't think the offense is this good. I also don't think the starting rotation is this bad. So I felt pretty encouraged overall by what we saw in Toronto, that going into a building that's incredibly hostile. Your pitchers particularly, Logan Gilbert and Luis Castillo don't give you what you needed out of them. Brian Wu had 14 hard hit balls against him, and didn't get a strikeout until like the 4th or 5th inning, but at least he was able to give you 7. And that, I mean, you look, in hindsight now on how the next 2 games went, that was so huge for the rest of the series, him being able to save the bullpen and Casey Lawrence being the only guy that had to throw out of the bullpen on Friday night. But I mean, Wu wasn't particularly good either on Friday. So like you really didn't get a ton of help out of your rotation in any of those 3 games, and you were able to survive it, and you were able to get a series win, and you're able to punch back. That's what we saw in Cincinnati. You were able to punch back. It's really encouraging to see, and it's encouraging to see that this team has some fight in it when things go sideways. Didn't feel like they had that the last couple of years. So yeah, so I think that overall is huge. This team so far kind of reminds me of 2021 and 2022 in that regard.
Yeah, it's probably more talented though.
Yeah.
I think one of the fun things about this offense is that it's kind of a little bit of everybody, pitching in. Now Cal's on an insane run, and obviously he's the driving force right now. But also, you look at it and every player has contributed in some way or another, even if they're not actually putting up great numbers right now. Randy has had a ton of big hits early this year. Julio has certainly had his moments as well. And obviously Cal's the driving force here now. Dylan Moore, you get him on the road on the East Coast, and all of a sudden he's a different player. He's clubbing homers off of lefties left and right. And you've even gotten some pretty good production from guys like Miles Mastroboni and guys like Ben Williams and guys who weren't, 2 months ago, we weren't talking about as being like, oh, they need to contribute or you're in trouble. Even Leo Rivas is giving you some good at bats. Like you're getting a lot of these little contributions from just about everybody. Like I can't think of a player who hasn't helped you like at all. Donovan Solano. I mean, like even Rowdy had a big series and good. He needed to because he sucks, but whatever. He's sitting right now. So keep doing your thing, Rowdy. Even Garver's had a couple really good at bats and a couple RBI, and JP after a really slow start, he's looked much better over the last 10, 15 days. So it is nice that it's not just like, oh well, Julio is August Julio and he's just dragging the offense along for the ride. It's close because Cal is basically on August Julio stuff right now, but like he's getting other production around him, including guys like Jorge Polanco, who we were not sure what that was going to look like this year. And guys like Ben Williamson and Miles Mastroboni and Leo Rivas and Dylan Moore, like these role players are playing really good ball right now, which certainly helps. And again, they're doing this, and it is kind of it's obviously the driving force is Cal, but it is much more of a kind of a distributed offense. Everybody's kind of pitching in. Everybody's having at least good at bats. Everybody's willing to take walks. They're stealing bases left and right. And they're doing this without Victor Robles, who is supposed to be the catalyst of all of this, and without Ryan Bliss. And so, it's not as though everything's worked out perfectly for them. Luke Raley hasn't gone on a super hot stretch yet. And we know he's certainly capable of doing that as well. So I do think that, while we look at the offense and say like this level of run production isn't sustainable, it's probably not. I mean, they've been really good for 10, 12 games now. The idea that this offense is just going to crash back to like being just bad, like it was most of last year. I think you can make a pretty strong argument that what we're seeing now is certainly a high point, but the low point isn't, 2024, because there's a higher floor there because they do a lot of things better than they did last year, like running the bases, putting the ball in play, and so far hitting home runs.
Yeah, I got a couple more thoughts on this series and just where the team is at in just a moment. But first, a reminder: this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you once again by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel has given new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into player props. From three-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. You're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. So let's talk a little bit more about this past series on the weekend against the Blue Jays. Mariners take 2 of 3. They win the second and third games of the series. It's really incredible what this team is accomplishing in general, despite the rotation not being, what you need it to be, and also Julio not really being what you need him to be. Now, Julio has had a better start to the year than he has had in the past, but he's been streaky. He hasn't had a particularly good road trip. He had a better day on Sunday. Had the double to kick things off that almost found its way out of the park. I'm pretty sure that is like the best thing I've seen Julio do in person, by the way. I don't think I've ever seen him hit an extra base hit until Sunday in Toronto. I might be wrong on that, but
I guess scoring a run in game 1 is just not on the list.
Yeah, you got it hit by. He also technically caught the final out of game 2 of the wild card. Yeah.
Were you there?
So, all right. Yeah. So maybe that's the coolest thing I've seen Julio do in person. But yeah. So yeah, Julio isn't necessarily Julio right now. The rotation isn't the rotation that you were expecting, and it would be easy for this team to just kind of curl up in a ball and die, given everything that's happened, right? This is mostly the same team from last year. The offseason went the way that it did, and we know that the players feel some type of way about that. And then they go into the season. They're 3-8, 4-8 to start the year. They lose one of their biggest, vibes guys, and Victor Robles. They lose another everyday player and Ryan Bliss. The rotation is not pitching the way it needs to. Like, all these things are going wrong, right? And it would be easy for, especially again, because this is pretty much the same group from last year, and we saw how last year went. It would be easy for them to just kind of throw their hands up in the air and just go, that's it.
So it sounds like what you're saying is that Dan basically is using Scott Service's players to have success, so all the credit goes to Scott. It sounds like what you're saying.
Right. That's right. That's right.
Scott Service was done dirty, which, I mean,
kind of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
But I'm linking this all back to being a Scott Service stand. No,
of course.
But yeah, like I don't know if it's Stan. I don't know if it's probably a combination of everything, right? Mm-hmm. But it is nice to see that despite all these things that have happened, that this club is keeping it pushing right now, and they're playing really good ball. I mean, they're the hottest team in baseball over the last 10 games. I don't know if anyone else is 8-2 now after last night's games, but yeah,
right. I think one guy here who deserves a lot of credit for keeping the vibes up, or however you want to phrase it. I think we might be understating the importance of Randy Arozarena being here at the start of the year. Because while his overall numbers aren't amazing, and by that I just mean mostly just his batting average.
Yeah, it's just the average.
Everything else is totally fine. He has had, I mean, we already think about all the big at bats he's had just so far. He had the grand slam, he had the home run to tie it in Cincinnati. He had the game winning walk. He had the big double to break the game open the other night. Like,
game tying home run against the A's on opening day.
Right. Like, he has really performed very well in these high leverage spots. And You know,
I mean, his catch on Sunday might have kept the
that
Blue
probably
Jays
saved
from
the
getting
game.
back in. Yeah, from getting back
Like
into that game.
I don't think the Mariners win that game if Randy doesn't make that catch, and that's not an easy catch. And Randy, you know, gets a lot of flack for his defense, and it's not great. Certainly, I
No,
don't think anybody would argue it's great, but
no.
it's been fine. It's been fine this year, and he's stealing base. I think he's got 6 steals. Like he's running
Yep.
again. The power is already there, and he comes up with these incredibly big hits. And he's not like an outspoken vibes guy like a Victor Robles, but he brings this confidence and the swagger to these big situations. And he's the guy you want up there with the game on the line. Like that's the dude right now. And, you know, Cal is certainly on that list as well. But like to have that second or third guy who like, hey, look, Cal didn't get it done last year. That means it's over. This guy's going to strike out. This guy's not. And Randy's stepped up. And I think having him for a full season or having him at the start of the season certainly is making the difference because he's already helped you significantly win 3 or 4 games. Like he didn't do it single-handedly. Nobody does, but like his big hits are responsible for you winning 3 or 4 games that you might not have won otherwise. Maybe you still do, but you probably, you don't win the Houston game without him. So yeah, I do think that Randy is a guy who like, not being overlooked per se, but I think his contributions are being overshadowed a little bit by what Cal's done so far recently. But I think Randy being here for the entire year, he seems more comfortable here. He seems more engaged. Him and Julio and Victor are apparently close and all that. And he's just stepped up in these big moments. So I think, you know, while Cal is easily the best player right now on the Mariners, like I don't think it's close.
Yeah.
And therefore he is the most important. They're the same thing. Like, I think Randy's probably like, I mean, if Cal is Batman, Randy's Robin. It's not Julio right now. And you need those guys. So I do think that we should be.
Yeah. Can we just say that like right now, like Julio is the most talented player on this team by far, right? Cal
most talented players in baseball.
Yeah. Cal is the best player on this team.
Yes.
Now. Yeah.
Yes. I think at the end of the year, we know Cal's going to hit like 220, 230. We know that he's going to walk enough to have a good on base. He's going to hit home runs, and he's going to go weeks at a time where he is running a 35% strikeout rate and blah. Like, I don't think the torpedo bats have turned him into the best player who's ever lived. Okay. But Cal right now, I mean, look, he's not like, I think Cal is who he is, and who he is already kind of a fringe MVP candidate when you consider everything he does that doesn't get, you know, just you can't be substantiated in numbers. Like he's already that guy. Could he have a breakout year, the one breakout year where he pushes it and all of a sudden he's a 8-win catcher? Sure. Yeah, that's possible. But I think at the end of the day, like you enjoy this hot streak now and you know that eventually it's going to end and he's going to fall back and then he'll surge again. And he's a streaky hitter. A lot of these Mariners hitters are streaky.
Yes.
And that is kind of the one flaw here. They don't really have a lot of like just like consistent performers. They really need a Nathaniel Lowe.
Randy has been the one dude. Like he had the bad series in San Francisco, but even in that series, he had the game time hit in the Sunday game.
Sure.
But I think outside of that series,
consistently good all year.
Yeah. But Polo's not getting in the lineup enough right now.
Right. I mean, he can't even face left-handed pitching right now. And he can't do anything but DH against right-handed starters. Like, so his value is limited because of that. But I mean, this team could really use like a Nathaniel Lowe. Sorry. You could use a guy like him. They could use like 2022 Polo, who's just like consistently good against lefty, righty, blah, blah, blah. Like, and every player is going to, you know, ebb and flow. There's going to be hot streaks and cold streaks for everybody. But like the Mariners have a lot of guys who their cold streaks, you're sitting there watching them like, is this guy even a major leaguer? Like, yeesh. So right now
I would be stunned if Nathaniel Lowe wasn't a Mariner this year.
I would put him number one. Like if you told me like, hey, the Mariners are trading for one player, you have to put your, you know, your monthly salary on the Mariners acquiring one player this summer, who are you putting it on? I would put it on Lowe.
Well, it's just we know that they tried to trade for him when he was with the Rangers. First base is a massive issue for them right now. The Nationals are not going to be good.
No.
Yeah.
You get him for a year and a half, which Jerry likes. He prefers to get the guys with the club control.
Yeah.
He's a lefty, which this lineup could really use. He's basically left-handed Ty France.
He's hitting really well right now, by the way.
Yeah, so
it's like a 139 WRC plus.
He's good against lefties and righties. There's no splits. There's no platoon splits whatsoever. And I think the Mariners had like a really good, like they were going to pay the freight for Lowe if Texas was willing to trade him in division. And it just sounds like they weren't. So like they just didn't even get an opportunity. But it sounds by all accounts that they really like him. They think he'd be a great fit in the lineup and at T-Mobile Park. I tend to agree. And he was almost certainly going to be available this July, maybe even sooner. Who knows? But that's besides the point. Let's get there before we decide whether Lowe makes any sense or not. I mean, Daniel Lowe probably doesn't make a lot of sense if you're 43 and 51.
Sure. But again, if this team is winning, I'd be stunned if Nathaniel Lowe wasn't a Mariner.
I don't know about stunned because you can never this player's always less likely to be, but if they make a significant move at first base and it's not Nathaniel Lowe, I would be pretty surprised by that.
You're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. So any final thoughts on what we were talking about, or do you want to talk about the Boston series?
I mean, overall, the road trip, they could get swept in Boston and that'll suck, but it'll still be an acceptable road trip, winning 2 of the 3 series and winning 4 out of 9 on, when you go on the East Coast road trip with only 1 day off, especially considering how just bad, if you want to be generous, mediocre the starting pitching's been on this trip. I think it's already a successful road trip. If you go into Boston and you win even 1, I think it's a real, a great road trip. I don't know. But if you win another series in Boston, I think you're looking at, a great road trip that really could set you up and be a catalyst to you kind of taking control of this league heading into May. So it's already been a good road trip overall in Toronto. It really did feel like, if you could win 1 of these 3 series and not get swept in any of them, you could go 4 and 5 and get back home. That would be a really solid road trip early in the year. And they have an opportunity to do better than that. And that's pretty cool. And it's thanks to the offense, which is, again, not something I thought we'd be saying a month ago.
Yeah. So Red Sox coming into the series 13-11. Brian Bayo is making his season debut. I don't know what he was dealing with. Do you know?
No.
Yeah. But he's making his season debut. We've seen him a couple times. We know the deal with Brian Bayo. Is this going to be another crazy high scoring series at Fenway Park? Because I mean,
probably.
Yeah, it feels like every time the Mariners go to Fenway, it's just the most unhinged game. I feel like there's been a couple times where the Mariners erupt for 6 or 8 runs to start the game, and then they wind up losing 11-8 or something. Yeah. Let me. Yeah, I'm pretty sure last year, the Red Sox scored 14 in one of the games, and the Mariners scored 10 in another one of the games.
Yeah.
And then there was the 3-2 game, the extra innings game.
I think Randy hit his first home run as a Mariner at Fenway to make it 11-2. In one of those games. So.
Yeah, it was a lot. Yeah, because remember, Gilbert was pitching, and then a couple of calls didn't go his way, and then he just kind of lost it. And
it's the one time we've seen Logan Gilbert kind of be like, "Get me the hell off this mound. I don't want to be here anymore." Which
So let's look here. So the last 6 games played at Fenway Park between the Mariners and the Red Sox have ended in scores of 10-1 Mariners, 9-4 Red Sox,
sure,
12-3 Red Sox, 14-7 Red Sox, 10-6 Mariners, and then a 3-2 extra innings win for the Red Sox.
You're telling me the Mariners have won 2 of the last 6 in Fenway?
Yeah,
I never would have predicted that.
And they won them by a combined score of 20-7.
So let's be realistic here. You're probably losing on getaway day. It's Garrett Crochet. Now
you're countering with Brian Wu.
Right. And to be fair, you already beat Tarek Skubal on a getaway day game that you had no business winning. So, like, could they do it again? Sure. Baseball, it's weird, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they beat Crochet last year. Again, stranger things happen. The offense is in pretty good place right now. Fenway Park, who knows? That's a ridiculous ballpark. So you never know with any of these games. But yeah, you're probably a heavy underdog as much as you can be in a single baseball game in April on Thursday. So you really do want to win these first two if you're planning on winning the series. But yeah, I think, you know, Fenway sucks. Like it's an overrated ballpark in general. The history is incredible, and I appreciate all that, but it's a terrible ballpark. It's not a great fit for Seattle. Like they're not really well built to win in Fenway Park. And you know, Boston last year, at least in the first series, they really figured out how to pitch to Seattle, and Seattle kind of had to adjust, and it really set the book on the Mariners offense in the first half of the year. And they couldn't counterpunch. And so, yeah, Boston's not a particularly great matchup for Seattle, particularly in Fenway Park. So, yeah, I'm a little concerned about this series because, again, you're facing Crochet on Thursday. Hancock is starting on Wednesday. Like, you want to talk about a match made in hell? Emerson Hancock pitching in Fenway Park. Oh, my God.
Yeah. Now, Great American Ballpark, also not a great situation for Hancock to pitch in, but also the Reds were like literally the worst offense in baseball heading into that series. So I know they got McLean and Hayes back, but yeah,
it's just
Red Sox offense is a lot better than the Reds offense. Now I know the Reds just scored 24 against the Orioles, which, oh my God. But yeah,
I mean, to be fair, they scored like what, 6+ runs against you twice. So
yeah. And
by the way, Ellie's just making these insane plays defensive. I don't know if you've seen them, but the Mariners left town. Yeah, so Ellie De La Cruz is all of a sudden a Gold Glove shortstop. So.
He locked in. Yeah.
So you're welcome, Jeff.
Yeah.
We fixed Ellie De La Cruz for you.
Yeah. But yeah, like, you know, this Red Sox lineup, it's Duran, it's Devers, it's Bregman,
Casas.
It's Wilyer Abreu's off to a great start. Christian Campbell. Like, yeah. This is a pretty good team. I mean, this is a team that I picked to win the AL East, I believe.
Sure.
Pretty sure
and
that's what I picked to win the East.
They're struggling aside from, you know, the series they just won against the White Sox, which, does that count? I mean, yes, it counts, but like,
yes.
Are they playing a real baseball team? Like, kinda.
Not really.
I mean, in the sense that they all have gear and their names are on the back of their uniforms and they're all collecting a paycheck. Sure. Cut to, I don't know, a month or two from now when the Mariners lose 2-3 to the White Sox.
God.
But
don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
But yeah, Hancock going on Wednesday, and having to face Crochet on Thursday. I don't love their odds to win this series. It's one of the few times where I look at the pitching matchups and I go, you better win tonight.
It feels like you need to win tonight. You got Bryce against Bayo.
Right. And
I'm not sure what the specific numbers are against Bayo for the Mariners, but I feel like they've struggled against him.
Yeah, I feel like he's been pretty good against I know he's got good stuff in general. So, but again, at the end of the day, look, this is baseball being played in Fenway Park. Literally anything can happen. That is, like I said, I continue. It is a joke of a ballpark that is, you know, probably deserves to be like a historical landmark status, should never be torn down type of thing. But it is not a serious ballpark with the doubles monster and the pesky pole and like just the lack of foul territory down the lines and the huge gaps in left center and right center field and the triangle. Like, it's just a ridiculous ballpark. And it just, I can't, like, every time I see it on TV, I just get, I'm like, oh, gross. Like this.
Yeah.
The Mariners just are not well equipped right now to in theory.
So they've actually fared. So they've faced Bayo 4 times, 22 and a third innings combined over the course of 2023 and 2024. They've actually handled him fine. He had a 4.93 FIP against them last year, 4.07 FIP in 2023. They've homered off of him 3 times, 9 combined earned runs, 7 doubles, so 10 extra base hits off of him out of 23 total hits. So,
yeah. Again, like I said, we'll see. The Fenway series every year is when I'm just like, ugh. If you don't get swept, it's a good series.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how good or bad the Red Sox are. I know traditionally they're good, especially for the last 2 decades, but like it doesn't matter. The Mariners are going to Boston. And hopefully they can find a way to salvage a win out of that series. It's just how I feel. And I don't know if the numbers even support that. I don't know what like their record is in Seattle or in Boston over the last 10 years. For all I know, it's one of their better places. But like I know I don't feel that way when I go to Houston. I know I don't feel that way when I, head to even Yankee Stadium. But Fenway Park, man, it just I'm starting to feel that way about Detroit too, by the way.
I'm pretty sure it's been a little while since they won their last series at Fenway. Pretty sure Switch had this a few days ago because he also mentioned how long it had been since the Mariners won a series in Rogers Center. I can't find it, but I think it has been a little while since they won a series in Fenway, maybe 3-4 years. So hey, I mean they got the monkey off their back, at Rogers Center, so why not make it happen at Fenway Park as well? And if they're able to do that, I mean, yeah, that's a hell of a road trip, especially considering all the things that we talked about over the course of the show, and just where this team is at right now. But yeah, if they're able to go back to Seattle with a 5-4 road trip or better, and then face the Marlins and 2 against the Angels before heading back onto the road for a interdivisional road trip, that would be awesome. Be really cool. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, like Colby said, anything can happen at this ballpark. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be weird because the Mariners are weird, and the Mariners, especially this year, feel incredibly weird, and they've won a lot of weird games to start this year. That's going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Titan Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Titan Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. We're also on Blue Sky. You can follow me at TDG, Colby at MLB Colby, and the show at Locked On Mariners. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.